Part 88. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 875. Sizzle sizzle. Crackle 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 crackle. Under the strong electromagnetic shock, a harsh electric sound exploded inside and outside Reagan's body. The dense electromagnetic current seemed to be wrapped around Reagan's body into an electric chrysalis. The outside world did not underestimate the situation inside, and did not know that Reagan he was already dead, but just looking at this electric chrysalis, all the dead souls were risking his life. However, as the torturer, Wang Ling knew Reagan's condition immediately, but he just frowned and showed no intention of letting go. Even the powerful electromagnetic current was released at an even faster speed. Seemed to want to take the opportunity to release the anger accumulated in Wang Ling's heart. Crackling. With Wang Ling's current strength, he unleashed the electromagnetic current of the magnetic blast infantry with all his strength. The power was very terrifying. As he gradually increased the intensity of the electromagnetic current, the sound of the electricity became more and more harsh. In the end, it was like an explosion. It's frightening. The Red Alert world has the rules of the Red Alert world. Unless there are certain characters, the body will not be left behind for too long after death. Obviously Reagan does not have this qualification. Wang Ling's anger had not been fully released, and even the electromagnetic current had not reached its strongest state, but Reagan's body had gradually disappeared. The right hand that was originally holding his throat was held empty. The electric pupae that were originally lingering around Reagan's body also spread out in an instant. Because of the speed, the whole thing was like an electromagnetic explosion, dazzling and dazzling. And when the electromagnetic storm ended, everyone saw clearly what was happening under the electric chrysalis. Reagan was dead, and even his body had disappeared. Good. Well done, you are worthy of being a hero of our coalition. Ha ha ha, I admire this courage and this method, I admire you. Relieve your anger. This is what you should do. Wang Ling, awesome. Seeing this scene, all the generals in the coalition headquarters, including PoortoRich, shouted excitedly. They had been holding this breath in their hearts for too long, and today Wang Ling finally let out this bad breath. As for the Holy City barracks, at this time, it was strangely quiet, almost a pin drop could be heard, and everyone did not even dare to make a sound. The scene in front of them really shocked them. After a while, Wang Ling spoke first, breaking the silence. Oh, so brittle? Wherever we are now, he is already dead. Not even half of the tearing feeling I felt when I was moved through time and space. After saying that, he even clapped his hands awkwardly, looking disgusted. Hateful. Too arrogant. With this face, I really want to tear him apart. The revenge was completed, but he was still sarcastic. Wang Ling's approach really hurt the pain of the Allied troops. A group of infantrymen were gnashing their teeth, but they did not dare to take action. After all, there is a nuclear bomb hanging above their heads. Whenever they fire, the nuclear bomb will detonate, killing almost all the main troops in the barracks in an instant. For this reason, not only the infantry, but also General Bob and several other generals looked extremely dark, but they were unable to order the forcible siege and killing of Wang Ling. Seeing his arrogant look, General Bob was so angry that he was shaking all over. What's even more annoying is what's behind. Wang Ling succeeded in seeking revenge, but he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he looked around and said provocatively, "What, you don't like me? Then kill me. Attack in groups, if you succeed, what's up? Get out. Don't let me see you again." A group of infantrymen were even more annoyed, and General Bob started to yell and curse. The coalition forces did not hesitate to threaten nuclear bombs, and Wang Ling was destined not to be left alive today. He didn't want to look at Wang Ling anymore. Wang Ling was not angry at being scolded. Instead, He couldn't laugh or cry for a while. He shook his head and didn't bother to provoke any more. Revenge was successful and Reagan was killed. There was no point for him to stay here. He simply identified the section of wall he had destroyed and walked slowly over. Wherever he passed, the Allied infantry tanks gave way. Don't dare to stop him. But looking at his domineering figure, the group of watching recruits were filled with fear and fear. Some of them have been training for several months and are about to go to the battlefield, some of them have just entered the barracks and are completely new recruits. Fortunately, I haven't been able to enter the battlefield yet, so I can feel the fear on the battlefield in advance, which even far exceeds the helplessness of the battlefield. And Wang Ling's figure seemed to be engraved in their minds at this moment, and they would be unforgettable for the rest of their lives. Some people hate Wang Ling because of their faction, some people have a deep-rooted fear of Wang Ling just because of Wang Ling's actions and the threat of the coalition forces. There are even some people, I had a morbid feeling of admiration for Wang Ling's domineering and powerful figure when he broke into the Allied barracks alone. In short, all kinds of emotions are mixed together, it can be described as a mixed bag. However, this was none of Wang Ling's business. He calmly crossed the heavy siege of the Allied forces alone and walked out of the wall. He turned back and looked at the barracks with a smile. Wang Ling then got into the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle with full power. Already far away from the barracks in a blink of an eye. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Wang Ling, bastard! Coalition forces, you are so cruel. Wang Ling! Wang Ling! Wang Ling! This bastard, why is he back? It's enough to just stay in the Seoul Empire and be tricked and killed by our allies. What the hell are you doing here? This bastard guy, sooner or later it is a huge threat to our allies. Allied forces, Allied forces. You are so good. For the sake of Wang Ling, you did not hesitate to confront the Allied forces and use nuclear bombs as a deterrent. After Wang Ling left, General Bob went crazy, cursing Wang Ling and the coalition forces. Compared to his annoyance, the anger of other infantrymen was nothing. After General Bob had vented for a while, General William began to persuade him, "General Bob, calm down. Wang Ling is too strong in this matter, and the coalition forces have indeed gone too far. But in fact, if you think about it carefully, the threat of the coalition forces is, to some extent, speaking of which, you also helped us. What bullshit is this? General Bob, do you think Wang Ling is telling lies? If we start a war, how likely is it that Wang Ling will kill us with his combat power?" At this point, General Bob finally calmed down a little. Thinking of the possibility of being bombarded by Wang Ling after the war started, he even had a Cold War involuntarily. General William took the opportunity to say, "The coalition threatened us with nuclear bombs not to take action. Although it did embarrass us, in fact we went down the slope and let Wang Ling go, which actually ensured our safety." Humph, you can think of reasons to comfort yourself at this time. Aren't you angry that Wang Ling is so arrogant? Did Reagan's death be in vain? You can't say that. Who said that Reagan did something wrong from the beginning and that our entire Allied forces suffered? According to the requirements of the coalition, Reagan should have been executed long ago, but we insisted on executing him. It has been delayed until now, and we are both in the Allied camp, and we are already very worthy of him. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 876. General William's statement is actually not unreasonable, and from the perspective of the coalition forces, what he said is actually true. However, as a senior Allied general, are these words really what General William is saying? No. Indeed, among the Allied generals, General William was one of the advocates of the coalition and played a lubricant role in the conflicts between the two sides. It can be said that he was relatively rational. However, no matter how rational he is still a general of the Allied forces. Because he was threatened by the Allied forces, even though he knew that they were at fault, it was inevitable that he would get angry. These words may seem reasonable, but in fact they are just words he said for the occasion, barely trying to appease General Bob and comfort himself at the same time. General Bob took a few deep breaths, and after calming down, he figured out the reason. He was originally very humiliated, but now he had some face thanks to this excuse, and he said, "Humph, what a good one, the coalition forces are so cunning. They don't dare to completely turn against us, right?" This approach not only saved Wang Ling, but also made us scrupulous and unable to attack him, while maintaining the relationship between the two armies and preventing them from turning against each other. Very smart. However, the method is really annoying. Don't let me catch the coalition forces, otherwise, this humiliation will be doubled. After listening to his explanation, the other officers and soldiers understood a bit of the coalition's intentions. Although they were still unhappy, the strong sense of humiliation they had previously felt had faded a lot. At this point, General Bob had no other choice. He really didn't want to stay in this barracks anymore, so he assigned a major to serve as the camp commander, and then took General William and others with him. The helicopter left the barracks. After the commander left, the tense atmosphere in the barracks gradually eased. Subsequently, the troops mobilized to trap and kill Wang Ling also organized and retreated in an orderly manner. After these batches of troops left, the originally slightly crowded barracks finally returned to its original appearance. However, after Wang Ling's impact, the entire military camp's recruits were greatly affected, and they could not recover for a long time. Not only them, but even the generals who accompanied General Bob in the retreating helicopter remained silent one by one. General Bob also had a straight face and said nothing. To be honest, General Bob now particularly regrets coming to the barracks in person. Was it really out of consideration for the safety of all Allied forces that we gave in under the threat of the Allied forces? No, he just didn't want to die. If he was caught by the coalition forces without being present at the scene in person, and was hiding in the headquarters to command from a distance, how would he react under the threat of a nuclear bomb attack from the coalition forces? Even General Bob himself was not sure about this. "Coach, thank you for the rescue. Otherwise, if I had to deal with it myself, I would probably have to fight hard." Unlike the boredom of the Allied forces, the Allied forces were very happy. In the anti-aircraft tracked vehicle, Wang Ling was laughing while contacting Coach Rich at the headquarters. But Coach Rich smiled and said, You have been away from the Seoul Empire for too long, and you are used to acting alone. Such a crazy move, you didn't even tell me in advance. If Li Wiki hadn't followed me reported, I'm still in the dark. Wang Ling, don't forget, the coalition is different from the Mind Empire, we will be your strongest backing. Wang Ling giggled, scratched his head and replied, maybe there are some sequelae. I have faced the siege of the Seoul Empire several times before, and I am used to breaking through by force. This time I killed Reagan, and I subconsciously thought that I would have to face that kind of scene. Oh, you have suffered a lot these days. After hearing what Wang Ling said, Coach Rich couldn't help but sigh. However, Wang Ling really didn't deserve sympathy, and then he ruined the atmosphere. Haha, Coach, don't be so sad. I actually had my own considerations when I stormed the Allied barracks. Agent Tanya will definitely put it in according to my whereabouts report. There must be a lot of troops deployed in the Allied barracks, and there may be a few big fish there. Reagan cheated me so badly. I also want to cheat the Allies. If there is a conflict, I will kill them. A few big fish. Anyway, I am confident that I can run away. At worst, the Allies will chase us for a few more days. After laughing, Wang Ling even added, I never expected that the Allies would take me so seriously, and even the commander, General Bob, would go there. At that time, I could hardly hold back my laughter, and the conflict started. If Bob is killed, won't there be a big threat in the future? This time, not only PoortoRich, but also the other generals in the general command post were speechless after hearing this. Ahem. After a while of embarrassment, PoortoRich coughed dryly and said fearfully, "Wang Ling, things are not that simple. Fortunately, we have threatened Bob. Otherwise, if there is a conflict, the consequences will be unimaginable. The Allies are indeed a hidden danger, and the future will be very difficult. There may be another dispute with us. If Bob is killed in advance, it will be easier for us at that time. However, after all, now in the joint stage, the Allied commander was killed in the conflict. This is no joke. Not to mention the internal Allied forces, there will be chaos, destroying the general trend of the alliance, and the Empire of the Soul is also watching with eager eyes, hoping that we will break up." At this point, PoortoRich sighed again and revealed his real reason: "The most important thing is that we are worried about your safety. Indeed, you have broken out from the siege of the Soul Empire and have strong survivability. But in fact, your ability is to restrain the Soul Empire to a large extent, and you have some advantages. The Allies are not the Soul Empire. There are too many internal units that can kill infantry instantly. We really can't guarantee that there will be a real conflict. You can still walk out of the barracks alive. Moreover, even if you are confident, we don't dare to gamble because we really can't afford it." Wang Ling, who was still gloating about his misfortune, suddenly fell silent after hearing these words. Indeed, these last words of PoortoRich hit the point. The Allies are not the Empire of the Mind, and their arms are completely different. Wang Ling can escape from the siege of the Empire of Mind, but he may not be able to escape from the siege of the Allies. Among the infantry, SEALs and snipers can cause a lot of damage to him. Tanya's agents may also open fire when they conflict, and rocket pilots in the air are also a big threat. In the armored forces, whether it is the Prism tank or the Phantom tank, they are the natural enemies of the infantry. However, the Allies also focused on arranging these units for their layout. Surrounded by this group of conflicting units, if Wang Ling released the shockwave with all his strength, how many people could be killed? The Allies were indeed not fools. They used a trap to trap and kill Wang Ling. Did they do it with calculations in mind but not with care? Was it really that easy to escape? After thinking about these issues carefully, Wang Ling's original optimistic attitude could not help but become a little more solemn. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 877. Sure enough, Zhang was still too old. Wang Ling used his excellent skills and eager heart for revenge to break into the Allied barracks. But if he really allowed him to escalate the situation, the consequences would be more serious than Wang Ling's. It's even trickier to imagine, and you might even be in danger. Fortunately, now, PoortoRich, an old man in the world, suddenly took action. With a few simple threats, he managed to avoid all possible serious consequences, and also established an image of a friendly commander in Wang Ling's heart. It can be said that he has accomplished multiple things with one stone. After thinking about this, Wang Ling couldn't help but sigh. "Coach, you are still so cool. My experience in the world is still far behind." "Ha ha ha," PoortoRich laughed wildly, "that's why I didn't rush to promote you to Major General. Your record is actually fully qualified to be promoted to an officer, but it's not a good thing that you were promoted too quickly. I still want to let me beat you and gain experience in all aspects." "I'm very interested, coach, thank you." "Hey, this stubborn boy actually thanked us. Haha, with this I can brag about the little brats under me for a while. Come on, Wang Ling, I don't need your thanks. Live well and work hard. Your achievements in the future will not be worse than mine." "Okay, you can have a good rest in the tracked car. Go back and see the group of people, old comrades. Remember to come to the headquarters with Li Wiki, we old guys have a lot of questions to ask you. Yes, coach. The radio communication was interrupted, and Wang Ling leaned on the seat in the tracked vehicle with a lot of emotion. I remember that when he was in the Seoul Empire, the Yuri clone personally ordered him to be exempted from military salutes. Even because of his temper after darkening, he was very unscrupulous. However, due to the atmosphere of the Seoul Empire, Wang Ling did not feel the slightest bit of freedom. Some are just boundless depression. But after returning to the coalition forces, despite the restrictions of the rules, the friendship between this group of old comrades in arms and senior officers is free from any impurities. When getting along with this group of people, I feel spiritual comfort, and this is also the most missing emotion in the Empire of the Soul. Buzz. The anti-aircraft crawler vehicle was still advancing at high speed, and Wang Ling's next target was the Baiyuanshan Theater where General Li Wiki's base was located. Here, the group of people he most wanted to see were stationed, such as Chief Li Wiki, Sun Dehua, Erlu, Li Tong, Gu Suanwu and other old subordinates. They were controlled by the Mind Empire. They met again after a few months. To be honest, Wang Ling looking forward to it, but also a little nervous. The Biwan Mountain War Zone is a war zone that was pacified not long ago during the war. The overall area here is not too large, because most of the area is covered with high mountains and waterfalls. The originally beautiful environment was severely damaged in the previous battle, and the surrounding mountains and foothills were full of traces of war. General Li Wiki's base is stationed on the mountainside of a peak. Due to the peace of the war zone, the defense of the base was not too tight. The soldiers resting everywhere were not as nervous as during the war. They were sitting in groups of 3 or 5, but it was surprisingly quiet and few people spoke. The overall atmosphere is somewhat depressing. Not only at this stage, but also in the past few months, the atmosphere in the base has been a bit depressing. Wang Ling's departure has never been recognized by them. They are looking forward to Wang Ling's return every day, but day by day, all I waited for was disappointment. As the Tiger and Wolf division led by Wang Ling, the Wolf group's combat effectiveness is the most outstanding among all field groups even without Wang Ling, and it even has the title of Hero Group. The team fought desperately during the war, but after the war, there were few celebrations. The dullness like today has become the norm. At first, out of anger, General Li Wiki revoked all the positions of captains and leaders of the Wolf Group and even the Eagle Group, as well as assistants such as Li Tong and Gu Suanwu. After being given the gift, everyone was reinstated to their posts, and even Sun Dehua became the leader of the Wolf Group. Of course, it was only temporary. Not to mention that the members of the Wolf Group only recognized Wang Ling as the group leader. Even Sun Dehua refused to take up the official position. The whole group was waiting for Wang Ling to come back. On this day, as usual, Sun Dehua, Erlu and a few others were sitting on the rocks next to the base, talking in a daze. Erlu was almost at a loss for words and chattered, "Did those people in the Ying group also take the wrong medicine, and they are also following our example during this period, playing depression and pretending to be aloof?" Sun Dehua made a cut sound and said, "We are silent, they can't be too active." Although Chen Tong and the team leader have the same level of position, their status is quite different from that of the team leader, and the team leader is also kind to him. If we keep them silent, they will be happy, then I will have to cause him some trouble. Gu Suanwu also echoed from the side, the same is true for the Eagle team. After the team leader left, the atmosphere of the entire base has changed. I don't know when the team leader will come back. When this topic came up, everyone present fell silent again. At Wang Ling's request, General Li Wiki has not yet told them about Wang Ling's return. Even Wang Ling's riot in the Allied barracks has not been deliberately publicized, and a group of people have been kept in the dark. If things continue like this, there probably won't be much to look forward to this day. Everyone will be the same as before, living in confusion. However, just as they were minding their own business, an anti-aircraft crawler vehicle suddenly broke into the Baiyuan mountain war zone. It drove quickly and rushed up along the mountain road. After a period of trekking, they finally broke into the base smoothly. Stopped in front of all the infantry. Suddenly entering such a tracked vehicle naturally attracted everyone's attention. Although in the game, the armored units of the same camp are almost identical, it is difficult to tell which base belongs to them when the colors are the same. But in fact, infantrymen in the red alert world can see the numbers of each armored unit and can easily identify the base to which they belong. The current anti-aircraft tracked vehicle, a group of infantrymen immediately recognized that it did not belong to their base, but no one cared at all. After all, it was common for major bases to travel between them, so there was nothing surprising about it. However, after the tracked vehicle came to a stop, a figure that was very familiar to them stepped out, but it attracted the attention of all the infantry. This figure was naturally that of Wang Ling. After nearly a day's journey, relying on the speed of the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle, he finally returned to this familiar base at this moment. However, the reaction of many infantrymen was very strange. They just looked at Wang Ling with dumbfounded eyes, as if they couldn't believe that this was Wang Ling. Even Erlu was still laughing at himself. "Oh my God, my eyesight is so dazzled in broad daylight. Why does this person look so similar to our cheap team leader?" Sun Dehu also jumped up and cursed, "Damn it, you can imitate the team leader's appearance. You deserve a beating, don't you?" Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 878. As he spoke, Sun Dehu even clenched his fists, a layer of electric sparks appeared on his palms, and walked towards Wang Ling with a menacing look. After not seeing each other for several months, they were all used to the days of missing each other. Unexpectedly, when they first saw someone who looked like Wang Ling, they subconsciously thought that someone was deliberately imitating them to tease them. The whole group, no one dared to believe that Wang Ling was really back. Wang Ling was a little confused by his scolding, so why was he imitating it? However, Sun Dehu became domineering and didn't give him a chance to defend himself. Wang Ling was already close when he was surrounded, and then punched him in the eye. Although Sun Dehu is from the Red Alert world, he was injected with an intermediate enhancer by Wang Ling and upgraded to a 7-star ace-level magnetic blast infantry. The strength and speed of his punches make it too late for most people to hide, let alone resist. However, Wang Ling is not an ordinary person. "You bastard, you're looking for a beating." He casually turned his head to dodge the punch, but Wang Ling was not used to it. He kicked Sun Dehu back 10 meters. Before Sun Dehu could even land on the ground, Wang Ling stepped forward and grabbed Sun Dehu's feet in mid-air. He slammed his wrist back, and with a bang sound, Sun Dehu was thrown backwards. The whole thing was embedded in the ground in the shape of big. This guy, with Sun Dehu's strong body, Wang Ling's attacks are really unambiguous. But it wasn't over yet. Since Sun Dehu couldn't move now, Wang Ling kicked his butt repeatedly. After kicking him, he cursed, "You Sun Dehu, you have a tiger in your name, why the hell are you still here? What a tiger. Do I need to imitate? Which stick can imitate me? We haven't seen each other for a few months. You're really stiff, aren't you? I escaped with a narrow escape and you wanted to beat me up the moment we met. Damn, I can't think of anything else to say right now. Kick me first. It feels so good. Kick me again. Dot. Is Wang Ling really angry? No, he was too excited. However, this expression of excitement depends on who is right. Sun Dehu is eager to fight as soon as they meet him. If he doesn't satisfy him, he will feel sorry for him. Of course, Wang Ling didn't use too much force on the legs that were added later. At best, he could only break the legs of ordinary people. And watching Wang Lingzia beat Sun Dehua, all the infantry in the base were confused. However, as they watched, the expressions on the faces of these people gradually changed from stunned to excited. The second donkey reacted faster. There was a burst of ecstasy in his heart. He jumped up and shouted at the top of the donkey's voice, "Wahahaha! No one else can make brother whose grandson a grandson except the team leader. He's really the team leader. Ha ha ha, the team leader is back, hurry up, catch him, don't let him run away. Team leader. Ha ha ha, team leader, I miss you so much. Team leader. Team leader. Dot. Erlu's voice seemed to have given a group of people a stimulant, confirming that this was really Wang Ling. He was excited to compete with each other, and rushed forward with a wild shout. This posture shocked Wang Ling. Damn, here we go again. Don't be so excited. Team leader. Dear team leader Nady, we are here. Oh ho. But how could they stop those crazy infantrymen? Before Wang Ling could react, this group of fanatical guys had already rushed forward and pounced on Wang Ling. There were so many people that Wang Ling couldn't hide. As a result, he was crushed by a group of them. Down, and the stacks get higher and higher like stacks of arhats. It's funny to say that when Wang Ling returned to the battlefield from the police dog training base, he was stacked like this once. Unexpectedly, when he returned today, he was stacked again. Is this the tradition of the coalition forces? No, it seems like there was someone who instigated these 2 times of stacking arhats. Hey hey! The grandson of Donkey, with a donkey bray, stirred up a group of people and pushed Wang Ling to the bottom, but he kept laughing evilly. Only when the arhat reached the height of a small tower of 5 or 6 meters did he scream. A voice said, "Team leader, I'm here too." Roar. However, Wang Ling responded with an ear-splitting roar, and then the arhat, who was like a small tower, collapsed. All the people on top of it collapsed, revealing the huge man in the center who had turned into a madman. Wang Ling from Beast King. The blue-black skin, strong muscles, exaggerated height, and ripped clothes were suddenly exposed in the base, which really shocked everyone. However, after landing, the group of people did not shout and kill. Instead, they looked at Wang Ling in this state in confusion, not knowing what was going on. My dear mother, what is this? Has the team leader changed? Erlu was not hit by the collapse, but now he was hiding angrily aside and moaning strangely. But Wang Ling got rid of the arhat tower, but he didn't rush to change back to his original state. Instead, he tied the strips of clothes around his waist without any haste, and then cursed, "You little bastards, you want to crush me to death. Crush me to death. Crush me to death." As soon as he finished speaking, before he could continue to scold him, Sun Dehua's scream suddenly came from beneath him. Wang Lingke suddenly remembered Sun Dehua. This guy was still under his feet, carved into the ground. The person whose feelings were most suppressed just now was not Wang Ling, but this guy. Damn, you almost forgot. Wang Ling was embarrassed and quickly bent down and dug Sun Dehua out of the ground. Sun Dehua was in such a miserable situation. He was first punished by Wang Ling, and then severely suppressed by the stack of arhats. He almost lost his breath. Ah! Monster! Boom! But it's not over yet. After not seeing each other for a few months, this guy was a little stupid. When he was pulled up in a daze and saw Wang Ling like this, he yelled and then punched Wang Ling in the eye. "You're such a monster." Of course, this punch did not hurt Wang Ling, but Wang Ling was not happy about being punched like this unexpectedly and being called a monster. He directly stuffed Sun Dehua into the pit again. At the same time, his body gradually shrank and changed. For a normal human body, through the system's set rules, he switched arms and restored his clothes. After he finished doing this, Sun Dehua finally came to his senses. He sat up from the pit and looked at Wang Ling, who had returned to normal. His brain was a little disconnected. He looked at Wang Ling in a daze for a while before he could hold back a sentence. The words came, "Who the hell are you?" Snapped. Wang Ling was so mad that he slapped Sun Dehu's Tianling cap. "Who am I? We haven't seen each other for several months, why are you so stupid?" Sun Dehu still didn't believe it. "Are you really the team leader? But how can you become a wild orc from the Soul Empire and still be so big?" "I." Ha ha ha. Wang Ling just wanted to explain, but General Li Wiki had already arrived with Zhao Pingwang and Rovsky. After a burst of laughter, he joked, "We have been apart for a few months. Let's see when we meet again you guys are making a fuss." Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 879. General. General. General Li Wiki came forward, and all the infantrymen on the scene hurriedly saluted, including Wang Ling. Only then did the originally chaotic situation stabilize. After General Li Wiki responded with a military salute, he looked at Sun Dehu and asked with a smile, "Why, I have missed your team leader for several months and finally he is back, but you don't dare to recognize him." Sun Dehu blinked his big eyes in a daze and asked tentatively, "General, are you really the team leader?" "It's absolutely true," the person who responded was replaced by Zhao Pingwang. "It's just that Wang Ling went to do some other things first and asked us to keep it a secret first. He said he would come back to give you a surprise. How about this surprise? Are you satisfied with it?" "Ha ha ha, satisfied, very satisfied. Team leader, you are finally back." Sun Dehu finally confirmed Wang Ling's identity. He laughed so loudly that he was so wanton. However, after facing Wang Ling and blurting out a sentence, he suddenly choked up. Wang Ling rubbed Sun Dehu's head and complained, "It's true that you are here. I gave you a surprise, but you scared me. Good guy, when you came back, you either beat me or suppressed me. Am I so easy to bully?" After complaining, Wang Ling suddenly felt distressed when he saw Sun Dehu choked with sobs. He hugged Sun Dehu on the shoulder and sighed, "Thanks to you for your hard work these days." Wang Ling is an emotional person. Agent Tanya of the Allied forces tried to rescue Wang Ling when he was first controlled. Wang Ling remembered this friendship in his heart, let alone his lovely subordinates. That desperate pleading gesture directly touched the softest part of Wang Ling's heart, and he will never forget it for a long time. "What are you waiting for? Don't worry about us, just do whatever you want." While the two men were hugging each other, General Li Wiki waved to the other infantrymen, and he took the initiative to retreat a distance to give them room to play. A group of excited infantrymen have obtained the permission order, so what are they worried about? He almost howled like a wolf and rushed forward, but this time he stopped playing Stack of Arhuts. Instead, he picked up Wang Ling and threw it high. Among this group of people, many people have gone through primary strengthening, and some even have records of intermediate strengthening. They are so powerful that they can throw Wang Ling more than 10 meters high when throwing high. Fortunately, he caught it when it fell, otherwise Wang Ling would have gone crazy. Of course, the most excited ones were all these veterans, not only members of the Wolf Group, but also members of the Eagle Group, and even Chen Tong participated. The new recruits recruited in the past few months do not miss Wang Ling so deeply. However, as heroes of the coalition, these people have of course heard too many stories about Wang Ling. In addition, they are in the Wolf Group and the Eagle Group. Under the influence, this group of people were also extremely curious about Wang Ling. The veterans were all joining in the fun, but the recruits were also watching happily. The entire base was extremely lively at this moment. How long has it been? How long has it been since it was so lively? Looking at this lively scene, General Li Wiki couldn't help but sigh. Zhao Mingwang smiled on the side and said, "It has been a few months. Since Wang Ling was controlled, this group of people, especially the people in the Wolf Group, have been extremely depressed, and this depression has even spread to the entire base. But now it's better, he's back, and the depression in the past will gradually disappear. Rovsky also clicked his tongue. I didn't expect that Wang Ling would already have such a great influence. Oh. 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 The soldiers are still rejoicing. This kind of joy has never been seen in the past few months. Even if they continue to attack the city and defeat the enemy, they have never been so excited. Not only them, but Wang Ling's inner joy was no worse than theirs. Although he has been controlled in the past few months and mentally belongs to the Seoul Empire, Wang Ling is from the coalition camp in the Red Alert world. He has an inexplicable sense of belonging to the coalition. The bond of a group of lovely subordinates also makes it difficult for him to don't worry. When you stay in the empire of the soul, you will inevitably feel like a stranger in a foreign land. Now that he finally returned to the coalition forces, seeing these familiar old subordinates, Wang Ling felt as if he had found a relative and returned to his hometown. Even in the high throes, this guy is still laughing. Regardless of the cruelty of the war, regardless of the grievances and hatreds, regardless of reality and fiction, at this moment, let's have fun first. It was rare that the atmosphere in the base was so lively. General Li Wiki did not interrupt them when they reunited after a long absence. He waited until they had really celebrated and put Wang Ling down before he said, "Okay, the trouble has been over. It's time to calm down for a moment. Wang Ling, during your absence, the members of both the Wolf Group and the Eagle Group have changed a lot, so you should get familiar with them first." "Yes, General." After Wang Ling responded, he calmed down and ordered the troops to arrange themselves neatly. However, he didn't say a word. He just turned in front of each row of infantry and took a closer look at these subordinates. Even the Eagle Group also glanced at them. At first glance, Chen Tong was very cooperative. After his inspection, he found that some familiar faces in the two field groups were indeed replaced by new faces. However, most of the old comrades who were closest to him survived, and they had made some achievements in successive battles. The growth is either 5-star Special Forces level or 7-star Ace level. When lined up together, the lineup is simply luxurious. With such a lineup, even without Wang Ling's leadership, this must be a strong Ace division. Looking at these familiar faces, Wang Ling was actually happy. Fortunately, he was not too stingy with points at the beginning and strengthened these old comrades to varying degrees, greatly enhancing their combat effectiveness and survivability. Otherwise, who can guarantee absolute safety on the cruel battlefield? Just imagine, Wang Ling escaped from the Seoul Empire with a narrow escape, but when he returned to the base, he found that all his old comrades had died in battle. How would that feel? Fortunately, they are still alive. Thinking of this, Wang Ling actually cried with joy, and some tears fell from the corners of his eyes. Seeing this, Sun Dehua volunteered to explain, "Team leader, during your absence, we have not insulted your heroic name. All members of the Wolf Group fought bravely to kill the enemy and created a hero group in the entire army. The title is so prestigious. For this reason, many soldiers even came here to join the Wolf Group. However, I specifically controlled the number of people and did not expand too much. I am afraid that you will feel strange when you come back." Wang Ling nodded. What Sun Dehua was worried about was actually exactly what Wang Ling wanted. The base is still the same base, and the team is still the same team. But if the members of the team change significantly and unfamiliar faces make up the majority, how much sense of intimacy will there be? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 880. Tisk, I get angry when I talk about this. Sun Dehua was so proud that he explained these glorious events in front of Wang Ling, but Chen Tong complained in the queue of the Eagle team, My eagle team is not bad, why is the choice left to you? A group of soldiers defected to the wolf group. That bastard Sundahu still picked off a large number of people. But when the people who were kicked off switched to the eagle group, they used the reason of getting back to the next best. Damn it, Wang Ling, what do you think I should do? What to do? Am I angry? How is the eagle team worse than you? Ha ha ha. Whining again. Quack, team leader, you don't know that team leader Chen Tong has protested to us many times over this matter. A group of veterans of the wolf group laughed. After all, Chen Tong was the leader of the eagle group and had a higher position than them. However, this group of people dared to laugh at Chen Tong. This shows how many times Chen Tong complained about this matter during these days. A group of people are used to it. Although they belong to the same camp and are in the same base, and even Chen Tong has participated in more than one battle under Wang Ling's command, the wolf group and the eagle group are two different groups after all, and there is inevitably some competition between them. When Wang Ling strengthened the wolf group, the eagle group also received a blessing, and a group of people followed him to strengthen it, but overall, the majority of the wolf group members were strengthened. Although Wang Ling was absent for several months, the wolf group's combat effectiveness was enough to surpass the eagle group led by Chen Tong with these strengthened elite soldiers. After all, the hero group refers to the wolf group, a separate field group, not the entire General Li Wiki base. The originally powerful eagle group was overtaken by the wolf group. Of course, Chen Tong was not convinced. Wang Ling also understood this very well, and was quite dumbfounded at this time. He reluctantly said, "The eagle group is also very strong, but the recruits don't know it. In the future, I believe you will prove this through winning battles again and again." A little bit. Only then did Chen Tong give up. That's pretty much it. Sun Dehuo, you kid, learn from me. You'll only be able to argue with me every time. Sun Dehuo was speechless. Afterwards, Wang Ling continued to inspect the wolf group and gradually became familiar with the new faces. After the inspection was completed, Sun Dehuo asked, "Team leader, how did you get here these past few months? How did you escape from the Soul Empire? You must have suffered a lot. Also, how could you become a wild orc from the Soul Empire? What the hell are you doing now? WTF?" This question made Wang Ling choke, and he glared at Sun Dehuo fiercely. But before he could speak, General Li Wiki interrupted, "Why are you in such a hurry? We don't know many questions yet. Wang Ling, you have nothing else urgent to do now, right? Then tell us carefully about this period of time what happened. Everyone, find your seats and sit down to listen together." "Yes, General. Let's listen to a story together. Good guy, there is no one in the entire base who doesn't like him." At that moment, all the infantrymen cheered happily, then spread out in tacit agreement, surrounded Wang Ling, and sat cross-legged. Wang Ling spread his hands. He still wanted to go to the headquarters with General Li Wiki to meet with Coach Rich, but Coach Rich specifically gave him permission to leave and come back to reminisce about old times. Of course he didn't care about the time. It's really hard to hold those experiences in your heart, so I took advantage of this opportunity to tell stories. After everyone was in place, Wang Ling cleared his throat and said, "Where do we start?" "Well, let's start after I was controlled. After those guys from the Mind Empire controlled me, everything happened to my thoughts. A drastic change, even to the point of being arrogant and arrogant. I always feel that I am the boss and I am the protagonist of this world. This change in mentality is subtle. Later I learned that feelings are Yuri's way of maintaining my fighting power. Instead of suppressing my character, it actually amplified the dark character." At this point, Sun Dehuo suddenly interrupted, "Oh, no wonder, when we went to rob people, the team leader was so impudent that after being controlled, he killed the soldiers of the Soul Empire as prisoners. Haha, I've done this glorious history more than once or twice. The Seoul Empire transferred me to their Russian branch. As soon as I arrived, I had a conflict with a group of soldiers, and Yuri X couldn't stop me. He stopped me and asked me to throw him aside. Finally, Yuri's clone came forward in person and promised that I would be exempted from all military salutes in front of him, so he stopped me. Wang Ling recalled with a smile. Although the memory of being controlled was not too good, it has passed after all. Looking back now, for Wang Ling, it was a story and an experience. There is nothing to say. Now that he had begun, Wang Ling began to speak freely, telling many of his experiences in the Seoul Empire. For example, being provoked by the wild orcs, going to the battlefield to confront Xia Tian, warning the Allied forces to avoid the war, escaping under the Allied superweapon Lightning Storm, counter-attacking afterwards, and building a spiritual beacon for the Psychic Empire after the victory, etc., 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 etc. Later, the Allies designed Wang Ling and tried to use time and space teleportation to completely kill Wang Ling. Hearing this, Sun Dehu and others finally couldn't help it anymore, and said with indignation, "Those bastards from the Allies. They were the ones who tricked you into the Seoul Empire in the first place. They even used lightning storm on you on the battlefield, and they dared to plan by cheating you. You are simply going against them. Damn, I'm so angry. How can the Allies be so shameless? If we encounter the bastard Allies on the battlefield in the future, I have to teach them a lesson. If I can't do anything, I have to bury them." After all, it was the team leader they missed who was tricked and almost killed. Can the people in the Wolf team not be angry? However, General Li Wiki was calm and persuaded. In fact, it is completely reasonable for the Allies to do this. It is true that Wang Ling is a hero of our Allied forces, but at that time, he was controlled by the Mind Empire and belonged to the hostile camp. And Wang Ling at that time, Ling was also specifically targeting the Allied forces to help the Psychic Empire build a psychic beacon. The threat was so great that it is not surprising that the Allied forces wanted to kill him first. "Even though I said that, I still sound angry," Sun Dehu muttered at the end, and finally stopped complaining for the time being. Wang Ling smiled, and then said, "What the Allies did really made me furious at the time. Fortunately, I had already been transferred once by the time and space teleportation, and my body was more or less resistant. During the transfer, I regained consciousness and was fully prepared. When I moved to the Allied trap, I opened fire before I could completely stand still. I tore through the blockade at a heavy cost and escaped forcefully. I solved several waves. After the chasing army reunited with laser UFO, they became angry and directly counterattacked on the spot, leveling the Allied base. Good. Well done. Domineering. As expected of the team leader. This is how you should deal with the Allies." A group of infantrymen cheered, but General Li Wiki suddenly couldn't laugh or cry. "You little bastards, stop making noise. Don't forget that we have a joint relationship with the Allies." At that time, Wang Ling represented the Seoul Empire and bulldozed the Allied base. Although this will relieve your anger, don't just say it out loud, otherwise it will have a bad impact. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 881. Yes, after all, the coalition forces and the Allied forces are jointly fighting against the enemy. Wang Ling represented the Seoul Empire and overran the Allied base. According to the general trend of the coalition, people like the coalition forces should feel sorry, but in fact, this is not the case. Just because they cheated Wang Ling before, instead of feeling sorry, this group of people clapped their hands and applauded. If this reaches the ears of the Allied forces, they will be angry. According to General Li Wiki's words, just be happy internally and don't say anything outside. Who said this old general was real? Wang Ling had already made such a fuss before by forcing his way into the Allied barracks and killing Reagan. Of course, he didn't care about the attitude of his subordinates. After laughing for a while, he coughed dryly and continued, "To be honest, the Allies that time they tricked me, and it almost killed me. However, fortunately, it was the first time I did this. They were still a little inexperienced and had some problems with the lineup, so I found a loophole to get out of it. But if I give it to them again chance, I was really in danger." The Yuri clone at that time probably thought of this possibility and did not dare to let me continue fighting. Instead, I was transferred back to the Russian branch. However, when I went back this time, I had enough. Torture? What? That old bastard Yuri dares to torture you? You turned against him. Team leader, with your strength and your darkened state, who could torture you? As soon as he said this, the members of the wolf group became filled with indignation. Wang Ling was embarrassed, and quickly pressed his hand to stop them, and explained, "It's not intentional torture, but the Mind Empire wants me to participate in the enhanced transformation experiment. To ensure success, I will be specially trained by the Yuri clone in person. For about an hour for many months, I endured nearly collapse pressure under high-intensity mental pressure every day. That kind of pressure still scares me. However, the training results make me quite satisfied. I have mastered the shockwaves and mind of the psychic army. Control ability: in the last challenge, with the shockwave ability, I killed dozens of Soul Empire infantry who participated in the challenge in one fell swoop." Oh! Wang Ling only used a few words to summarize the pain. They didn't know how uncomfortable it was. They just marveled at Wang Ling's strengthening after training. Some people even encouraged, "Team leader, show your hands. Let us also see shockwaves and mind control. Yes, show your hands. Welcome team leader to take action." There was a leader, and the others also started to boo, making Wang Ling dumbfounded. "This is what you asked for, don't blame me for being dumbfounded." Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Ling suddenly released a powerful mental shockwave. This shockwave has the power to kill infantry instantly. Of course, Wang Ling cannot release it on these people. He just controls the shockwave and concentrates it in one direction, avoiding all his own troops exquisitely, and blasts outward in a fan shape. Boom! Wow! There were no enemy troops or targets in the direction he released, but this was not a problem. Wherever the powerful shockwave passed, the ground halfway up the mountain was devastated, with dozens of wide cracks opening, and the stones are moving with the waves. This exaggerated formation stunned a group of people on the spot. They all stared at the plowed ground with their mouths agape, their brains cramped. General Li Wiki was still calm enough and quickly came to his senses, sighing, "So strong. With the spiritual energy of the shockwave, it can cause this level of damage to entities." Wang Ling smiled and said, "The shockwaves of ordinary psychic troops can only kill infantry, and the control is far from enough to distinguish between the enemy and the enemy. Yuri X can control the shockwaves, distinguish between the enemy, and destroy armored troops. I can also. You can do it, and the range is larger than him, and you can also control the diffusion direction independently. I'm going to choke you. Niu Dafa has killed the team leader. Ha ha ha, I was controlled for nothing. I learned these skills secretly. It's not a loss. What does it mean to learn from others secretly? This is just a matter of special training." After listening to Wang Ling's introduction, this group of infantrymen was very happy. This cheap team leader was really getting stronger and stronger. However, Wang Ling shook his head with laughter. "In order to obtain this ability, do you know how much I suffered? Come and try the pain of mental pressure." Buzz. Just do what you said. As soon as Wang Ling finished speaking, he suddenly released a wave of mental pressure that enveloped all the infantry in the entire base indiscriminately. At this moment, all the infantrymen's expressions changed, the veterans' faces turned slightly pale, the recruits looked even more frightened, and even General Liwiki frowned. However, this is his own army after all. The mental pressure did not last long before Wang Ling withdrew it and explained, "I can't bear to put too much pressure on you. This level of pressure is less than what I can bear." Just now I felt like my heart couldn't bear it anymore. I was so frightened, but it wasn't even a tenth of it. Good boy. I also feel a panic rising from the bottom of my heart, and my body is shaking a little. 1/10. Less than 1/10. Team leader, you. Alas, as expected, the team leader is powerful for a reason. They had personally experienced the horror of mental pressure, even if it was less than 1/10, but they could understand Wang Ling's difficulties through a glimpse. That's right, strength is not obtained in vain. Even if it is a system enhancer, which one is not obtained by experiencing pain that ordinary people cannot bear. There is no absolute fairness in this world, but it is very fair and just in terms of harvest and payment. As for the more abnormal mind control, Wang Ling did not deliberately show it. After showing the mental pressure, he said, "As I said before, the Yuri clone gave me special training, which is actually for the follow-up. An enhanced transformation experiment. This experiment is actually the most insidious part of the mind empire. It tries to completely control me, erase all my consciousness, transform me into a beast king, and become their killing machine. However, the inside of the mind empire is not the same. A ball of harmony. The experimental medicine was replaced by Yuri controlled by Yuri's clone's mind. I get goosebumps when I hear it. That damn Yuri X is actually framing the team leader too. You can't say that. From what the team leader said, it might have been Yuri's moves that allowed the team leader to get out of trouble by chance. A group of infantrymen were in an uproar again, but Wang Ling then nodded and said, "Yes, Yuri, I actually took the opportunity to get rid of the control, and with the help of the transformation potion, I controlled the form change of the wild beast king." Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 882. Oh. Crazy Beast King. After hearing this experience and hearing this term, a group of infantrymen showed shocked expressions. Even Sundahu suddenly said, "No wonder you could become such a big wild orc before, this is how emotions work." Wang Ling nodded and said with a smile, "That's right. My form of the wild beast king can change its size on its own. When I was escaping some time ago, this large form of the wild beast king helped me a lot." At this point, General Liwiki couldn't help but urge again, "Then how did you escape? The defense of the Russian branch should not be weak, right? And the branch of the Soul Empire, from your tone, seems to be far away from us." "Quite far away. How did you escape during this period?" Wang Ling spoke freely about these experiences, but he also had some reservations about his information, such as his identity as a player. Wang Ling did not intend to reveal the nature of the game in Red Alert World. Naturally, he had to retain his identity as a player. On this basis, Wang Ling narrated while concealing it, without the effect of the rage inhibitor, under that violent rage, it can be said that I survived a narrow escape, and my mental resistance was so strong that it was beyond Yuri's control. After the transformation was completed, my thoughts returned to normal, and my stance returned to the coalition camp. Everything in the Russian branch is naturally my enemy." After a pause, Wang Ling continued, "The most direct ones are the guards in the combat laboratory, as well as Yuri clones, several generals and Yuri X. However, just this lineup, I have no idea at all. With that in mind, I used shockwaves to kill all the guards, and used the body of the Beast King to kill Yuri's clone, those generals and Yuri X, and blew up the entire combat laboratory." Tisk, tisk. Hearing this, Zhao Pingwang joked, "Yuri really shot himself in the foot. He personally trained your mental power and transformed you into the Beast King. After that, you lost control and finally used the Beast King they want to transform will kill them. Hey, if Yuri's true self knows about this, he will explode with anger, right?" Erlu also gloated. Wang Ling nodded and replied, "Indeed, for various reasons combined, Yuri wanted to kill me, so he later sent so many troops to hunt for me, but that is a story for a later time." After blowing up the combat laboratory, the entire Ruish and the Yuri troops in the branch rioted, and the total forces of the three major bases launched a fierce attack on me from different directions. However, at that time, I had just finished strengthening, and I was eager for a battle in my heart. There, relying on different types of weapons, as well as shockwaves and mind control, I had an encounter with the forces of the three Yuri bases. At the beginning, the Yuri troops on the periphery were relatively sparse and were completely suppressed by me. But then the large troops became more and more concentrated. No matter how strong I was, my two fists could not beat four hands. However, after I felt the difficulty, they changed their target and began to attack Yuri's base. Finally, one base was blown up, and another base was about to be blown up, but the laser UFO army also followed suit. In terms of air defense, I am relatively weak. It is difficult for me to stop dozens of laser UFOs at once. After suffering a big loss, I decided to quit. However, before I left, I saw the palace and the spiritual message of Yuri's clone. After all, I've already hit that level, and I don't care if I hit you a little more, so I bite the bullet and blow up the palace and the psychic beacon before escaping. In just a few words, Wang Ling had already finished talking about the destruction he had done in the Ruishan branch of the Soul Empire. After hearing this, the infantrymen almost had stars twinkling in their eyes. "Team leader, you are so cool. You are indeed my idol. Team leader, you are awesome. Hey, I'm a good boy, team leader, you really are not human. No, most people would definitely die if they were besieged like this. But the team leader was lucky. Not only did he escape successfully, but he also killed a large number of people. Even Yuri's base and the psychic beacon were blown up. Although they have not fought against Yuri base alone like Wang Ling, as members of the hero group, they also have rich combat experience against the Mind Empire and are well aware of the power of this opponent. However, Wang Ling was surrounded by the total strength of the three major bases, killed a group of people and managed to escape. Not to mention anything else, just this record, if you show it, it will definitely scare everyone. However, in the excitement, there is also a rational mind, team leader, so many things were blown up under the encirclement and suppression of the three major bases, you must be seriously injured, right? Wang Ling gave a bitter smile, nodded and said, "Yes, if my body hadn't been strengthened, I would have died at that time. But even so, my body was seriously injured. The Mind Empire is determined to hunt me down. And sent an army of laser UFOs in hot pursuit. Fortunately, I had an idea and transformed into a large-sized wild beast king, which can cover a long distance in one step. I used this advantage to get rid of them smoothly." The following narrative is all about Wang Ling's escape and counter-attack process. Because there are too many Wang Ling's experiences of resting and recuperating in the real world, it is always a bit troublesome to describe in detail, so I will briefly summarize it and keep talking about it. Finally, he collided with Lieutenant General Lei Jun's base, and then he finished. After listening to these stories, all the soldiers in the base sighed. Some lamented that Wang Ling's fighting power and will to survive were really strong, and some cursed the Mind Empire for being too bullying. Finally, General Li Wiki spoke on behalf of everyone and said that Wang Ling had heard it many times. He said over and over again, "It's been really hard on you these days. However, now that you are back, the coalition forces will protect you no matter what the cost." Yes, "General," Wang Ling gave a military salute with a solemn voice. At this time, his vanity was quite satisfied. But then, Sun De cursed again, "Grandma, they are all Allied forces. If it were not for the Allied design team leader at the beginning, the team leader would not have suffered so much. That bastard commander named Reagan, I don't know, I wish I could kill him myself." When it came to Reagan, General Li Wiki, Xiaoping Wang, and Raoski laughed dumbly. Wang Ling also spread his hands, "No need. What do you think I did when I didn't return to the base immediately? That old boy would have been there a long time ago. If you ask me to kill him, I will kill him with my own hands in front of the Allied commander." What? Wow! As soon as these words came out, the infantry in the entire base was in an uproar again. It was really lonely in the days when Wang Ling was away. As soon as he came back, a series of breaking news came out, which shocked them. General Li Wiki finally gloated, "Not only Reagan, but the entire Allied forces are very afraid of Wang Ling's combat effectiveness. However, there are not many people who dare to trick people during the alliance like Reagan did." And the Allied forces, in fact, their attitude was in support of Reagan, so they refused to execute him, but because of the anger of the coalition forces, they had to be punished in a symbolic sense. Worst of all, even if they sacrificed Reagan, if they could get rid of Wang Ling, then you will feel like you are making a lot of money. But, haha, Wang Ling is not dead. He was first controlled by the Mind Empire, which in turn bombarded the Allies. Now he has returned with powerful abilities and killed Reagan again. The Allies this time, you really lost your wife and lost your troops. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 883. I lost my wife and lost my troops. Indeed, what General Li Wiki said is very consistent with the situation of the Allied forces. Not only during the period of being controlled, but also when Wang Ling returned and forced his way into the Allied barracks, General Bob thought of sacrificing Reagan to surround and kill Wang Ling. However, the script did not develop as he wanted. Wang Ling not only survived, but also brought abilities that made them even more fearful. However, Coach Richie came in and interfered with his plan, and he died. Reagan, live Wang Ling. Team leader, please tell me, how did you kill Reagan? After the shock, the soldiers urged Wang Ling to hear about his forced entry into the Allied barracks. There was nothing to hide about this matter. Wang Lingdang even opened his mouth to explain, the Allied Holy City barracks are also surrounded by walls. The most dangerous ones are several entrances and exits. If I want to pass there, absolutely dangerous. However, the Wild Beast King can easily destroy the wall, why should I follow their designed route? It was obviously something he had done personally, but Wang Ling talked about it as if he was telling a story. He detailed the incident in which he confronted the Allied guards and the tit-for-tat confrontation with the Allied commander. Later, Richie the coach rushed in and threatened the Allies forcefully. Wang Ling killed Reagan slowly and left safely in the end. After the whole story was told, the infantrymen in the base gradually became excited. Okay. Well done, team leader. Domineering. Even the Allied commander dares to challenge him. Haha, well done. Well done. I have long disliked the old bastard Reagan. Not only the team leader, the coach is also so domineering. Threaten the Allies with nuclear bombs, my dear. I complained before about why the Allied forces were so cowardly and refused to force the Allied forces to execute Reagan. That was the purpose of emotion. Haha, this is much more satisfying than forcing the Allied forces to take action. In fact, Wang Ling's hatred is also the hatred of the Wolf Group and the entire General Li Wiki base. It is self-evident that everyone feels happy when they hear Wang Ling personally resolve this hatred. All of Wang Ling's experiences have been told here. After listening to the story, what do you do next? Banquet. Yes, Wang Ling's return is a big event for the entire coalition, and it is a top priority for General Li Weiqi's base. It is completely worthy of celebration. When the troops are marching and fighting, they rarely drink. Unless they win a battle or there is some big event, they will have a banquet. For General Li Weiqi's base, there are countless battles won, but there has never been a banquet after Wang Ling left. But today, they want to release all the emotions accumulated during this period through this banquet. To this end, General Li Weiqi generously took out all the wine stocks, not only various types of vodka, but also red wine that had been exchanged with the allies. He ordered the cooking team to make the best food and prepared it in detail. After nearly an hour, the banquet finally started. This period of celebration was approved by PoortoRich, and in a war zone that had been calmed down, there was no need to worry about anything. In the base, the soldiers were drinking and chatting, and it was very lively. As the protagonist, Wang Ling was the key target of being forced to drink. Many officers and soldiers almost took turns trying to force him to drink. They would not stop until today. However, Wang Ling has undergone advanced enhancement and has the genes of the wild beast king. His alcohol capacity is simply unfathomable, just like a wine vat. He will not refuse anyone who comes. All the people who drink to him will be drunk by him in the end. But nothing happened to him. The original plan was to have an all-night banquet, but because too many people were forced to stay down, it only lasted until about 12:30 in the morning, and was forced to interrupt. The people who were not drunk were very busy next, and they had to carry all the drunk people back to the camp. Wang Ling is the busiest. He can carry 2 at a time, so the transport speed is quite fast. When he was carrying Sun Dehuo, this guy was very disrespectful. He almost vomited all over Wang Ling with a wow sound, but luckily Wang Ling escaped in time. You were the one who made fun of me just now, but in the end you drank like this. No matter how indulgent you are, you have to recognize your own drinking capacity. Wang Ling was helpless. But this guy Sun Dehuo still had a little bit of consciousness. He giggled for a while before replying, "Team leader, don't blame me. Don't blame me for letting you drink so well. A group of people can't drink it? You can't drink it? It hurts your self-esteem." Wang Lingna didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He smiled and scolded him a few times, then carried him back to the tent and gently placed him on the bed where he was. After working back and forth for nearly half an hour, he finally moved all the drunk people back to the camp, said thank you to the other sober people, and then Wang Ling went to his temporary command post and lay down where he was at that time. On a bed that I haven't touched for months. It seems that Li Tong and Gu Suanwu often clean and tidy this bed. It has not been used for several months, but it is still very clean and tidy. Next, it is natural to return to the real world. Previously being chased by the Mind Empire army like Sun Tzu, Wang Ling had to use the convenience of the system like a rogue to repeatedly travel between the two worlds, causing his biological clock to be somewhat disordered. Now that he is fine, he has returned to the coalition camp. With the powerful backing of the coalition, there is nothing the Soul Empire can do to him. After settling down, it is time to adjust this biological clock. After returning that night, Wang Ling played with Xiao He for a while, then lay on the bed and fell asleep. When I woke up the next day, life went on. A few days ago, Wang Ling had to rest during the day, just so that he could have enough energy at night to continue his escape to the Red Alert world. But now there is no need. Without those pressures, Wang Ling is quite comfortable, taking Xiao He around and taking a walk, while still thinking about what to eat for lunch. However, before he could think of the result, he was suddenly interrupted by the ringing of his cell phone. He picked it up and saw that it was his cheap roommate Wei Bowen. Seeing the name, Wang Ling answered the call without thinking. Hello. Wang Ling, son, do you miss your father? Dot. It was the same familiar emphasis. Wang Ling was speechless after hearing this. Ha ha ha. Wei Bowen was so happy when Wang Ling choked. After he had laughed enough, Wang Ling asked, aren't you still doing internships at this time? Why are you free to make phone calls? But Wei Bowen replied, internship? Internship is stupid. Wherever there is resistance, there is oppression. That's what I mean anyway. That internship unit is too deceiving, I quit. Now I have returned to the village, we're still in the taxi, and we'll be at school in about 10 minutes. I've got all my luggage, come pick me up at the school gate. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 884. Okay. Wang Ling responded, but before he could realize what was going on, Wei Bowen asked again, by the way, are you at school now? Didn't you go out to pick up girls? Where did you come from to pick up girls? Wang Ling's face darkened and he cursed back. But this sentence caused Wei Bowen to burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, I said Wang Ling, we are now grown up, it's time to talk. You will save me from having no experience by then, and you won't know how to coax girls, just talk and brag. The most important thing is that you are so fierce, I feel dangerous even if I live with you. Get out of here, sister. Ha ha ha, stop making trouble now and pick me up at the door. Dot. After finally hanging up the phone, Wang Ling let out a sigh of relief, and then a flash of joy flashed through his heart. During these days, the dormitory was too deserted, with only Xiaohei accompanying him. Although Wang Ling never complained about this, the loneliness in his heart was real. Therefore, during these days, in Wang Ling's heart, the world of Red Alert was even more important than the real world. After all, there were still a group of old comrades accompanying him there, whether they were real or virtual. Well now, Wei Bowen, who had the closest relationship with him, didn't know what kind of madness he had. The internship was not even over yet, and he resigned and came back halfway. Regardless of the consequences of resigning midway, at least at this stage, Wang Ling finally has a companion. Let's go, Xiaohei, go pick up that mallet. Woof woof. Thinking of this, Wang Ling also became happy. He called Xiaohei, one person and one dog directly changed direction and strolled towards the school gate. The School of Economics is really small, with a square shape as a whole, but the farthest distance, from the dormitory in the north to the campus gate in the south, takes less than 4 minutes to walk normally. One person and one dog even take a shortcut to cross the school. It only took about 2 minutes to reach the target point of the playground and teaching building. All that's left is to wait. In the school, only a small part of the junior students are in school, and many others have gone out to work or look for jobs. Most of the sophomore students are doing internships, and the most active ones are the freshmen. While Wang Ling was waiting at the school gate, it was inevitable that some junior students would come and go, but these people turned a blind eye to Wang Ling and paid special attention to Xiaohei. Some bold people will even come up to say hello to Xiaohei. Every time Xiaohei squints his eyes and responds in a naive manner, but he really attracts a lot of fans. Of course, timid people don't dare to come into contact with large dogs and will only take a long detour. Wang Ling didn't care about these, he leaned against the wall and waited for a while. After a few minutes, a taxi finally came, and Wei Bowen got out of it. This guy, on a hot day, was wearing a long-sleeved white shirt, trousers and leather shoes, and a decent tie. He looked like a successful white-collar worker. As soon as he showed up, he attracted the attention of many junior students. Look. However, when they saw that he was getting out of the taxi, they all turned their faces sideways, made a strange expression and walked away. This pretense failed, Wei Bowen immediately drooped his face, and only after seeing Wang Ling did he become more energetic. "Hey, Wang Ling, this way." Wang Ling had seen him a long time ago. He was just watching the excitement before, but now that the excitement was over, he walked over with the little black old god and helped him pay the fare. "I finally arrived at school. After the internship, I realized that school is the best. Ha ha ha." After meeting, Wei Bowen didn't give Wang Ling a chance to speak and just sighed. Wang Ling was just about to answer the call, but to his surprise, this guy actually screamed "yeah," squatted down, touched Xiao Hei's dog's head, and exclaimed, "Brother Hei, long time no see. It's been almost 2 months, right? Wang Ling aren't you bullying you and not giving you dog food? Look at how thin you have become. Woof woof." Xiao Hei barked twice, and his dog eyes rolled up twice, revealing exaggerated whites. When Wei Bowen saw this, he was suddenly stunned, and then asked, "Wang Ling, did it just despise me?" "Yeah, look at how bad you are, even Xiao Hei can't stand it," Wang Ling mocked. But instead of hurting his self-esteem, Wei Bowen said excitedly, "Oh my god, Brother Hei is smarter and he can despise people." Wang Ling didn't want to talk anymore, and even Xiao Hei drooped his face. Just like a buff with a lively atmosphere, Wei Bowen didn't feel embarrassed. He grunted twice and ran to the parking space to open the trunk. "Come on, Wang Ling, carry the luggage. I'm almost exhausted." "You're too much, move some more." "Okay," Wang Ling agreed. But when he was picking up his luggage, his face turned dark again. Wei Bowen thrust a large suitcase directly into his hand, then put a backpack on his back and pulled out another one from the trunk. Cardboard boxes were stacked on the suitcase. He thought that was the end, but he turned around and took out 2 large plastic bags from the back seat, filled them with some sundries, and threw them all to Wang Ling before giving up. "These things are not heavy, very light for Wang Ling, but they are full of things for Wang Ling, while Wei Bowen is holding nothing but a pair of dirty work clothes." Just like seeing off the taxi, this guy walked into the school feeling refreshed and high-spirited. "Hey, hey, hey," Wang Ling and Xiao Hei hurriedly followed from behind and complained, "Look, what you gave me is called a full one. Why don't you take some?" Unexpectedly, Wei Bowen pretended to be pitiful, "Ha ha, ha. Are you willing to let such a weak body like me carry such a lot of things? It's very tiring." Wang Ling's face turned extremely dark. What did this guy go through during his internship? Why is he even more slutty than before? Yes, it's not serious anyway. Seeing that it's rare for you to come back, I'll help you. Wang Ling took a few deep breaths and stopped taking it seriously. Woof woof. However, Xiao Hei was kind and took the initiative to take the suitcase from Wang Ling's hand. He wrapped his tail around the handle and used the wheels to slide. He also took a large plastic bag from Wang Ling's hand and put it on his shoulder with a shake of his head. Very solid. After all, it has also been strengthened at the intermediate level. It is no problem for Xiao Hei to do this kind of work. Brother Hei. However, Wei Bowen didn't know, so he hurriedly unloaded the suitcase for Xiao Hei for fear of tiring him, stuffed it into Wang Ling, took off the plastic bag, and put it around Wang Ling's neck. After finishing these tasks, he ignored how ugly Wang Ling's face was, squatted down and howled like a mourner, "How can you do this kind of work? Are you tired? Just leave it to Wang Ling, he won't be tired yet. Brother Hei, look at you, you're so skinny."